Day 78. It's going to be a short one today because you can see it is going to be raining. I started the book of Job this morning, and if you see tired bags under my eyes if you're watching the video, we were up late into the wee morning hours with tornado warnings and young adult children that decided to go to a late movie. And so not a lot of sleep for this one, but that's okay. Everybody is safe. I am not complaining. Just explaining, which is the title of today's little maybe message, is, sometimes there is no explanation that's needed or that will suffice. And in Job, we learn that is true. Like there's no good explanation. Even when we're reading it and we learn that it is like God and Satan setting Job up to prove, Satan's like, oh, I bet there's no human out there that will not curse you if their life doesn't get bad enough. Basically, is like the dare. And God says, hey, I know somebody. There actually is somebody like that. It's Job. And he gives Satan permission to just decimate his life just to prove a point. There was this. But we as humans, these things inside of our noggins are, meaning-making machines. Like we look for something to happen in our visible scene, the world that we live in, and we immediately need to make it mean something. It needs to make sense, and so that we can kind of file it away in our computer system and organize our mind. Like our mind has to do that with things that we experience. It's got to try to make sense of it. And so we make all kinds of stories up from our logical perspective of what it could possibly mean. But Job actually knows his own heart, and he's like, God appoints him as blameless. And Job actually knows that he's blameless. So he's like, but still, he doesn't curse God for it. He's like, yeah, who am I? You made me, you get to do with me what you want. You give it all to me, you can take it all away. But he doesn't deny his suffering. This man is suffering, and he is saying things like, I wish I were never born. If this is the pain I have to endure now, I wish I had never even been born. It's so bad. He's just being real and raw and honest in his suffering. And if you haven't read the book of Job or heard about it, this is a man who has just blessings and wealth and a loving family and children and he has all the things of that time period that indicate, just the good life. He's made it. He's arrived. And he is appreciative of it. We also learn that. He takes none of it for granted. He prays over his kids every night, and asks for forgiveness and tries to purify them just in case they sinned. He's even stepping in. He's intercessory with his family. Just in case, God, please bless them to, forgive them of any of their sins, just in case they sinned and they forgot to ask on their own. He is doing just all the things. He really is pure of heart, blameless, doing all the right things. But because of this cosmic thing happening between Satan and God, everything, all his animals are killed, all of his children are killed, His house is destroyed. Like he loses everything, and he still doesn't curse God. And Satan says, well, I bet if I make him really sick, then he will. And God says, okay, just don't kill him. Like, I'm telling you, Job's my dude. He's gonna handle it. And so he gives him like this terrible skin disease, boils everywhere. And he's miserable. He is hating life, but he never hates God for it. And he doesn't curse God for it. Now he is, the gloves are off. He's like doing a lot of complaining. He is suffering. He is, again, wishing he was dead. And then 3 friends come to visit. And they seem to be, if you come all that way to visit, like, these are good friends. They care about Job. His wife also, they make a point of this when he loses everything. Even his wife is like, why don't you curse God? Like, why are you still believing in God, loving God, doing all these things? Like, look at you. Look what he did to us. Look what he did to you. Like, when is enough enough? So even his wife is not on the same level he is. She's looking at the logical, and she's mad. Can you blame her? Like, this all happened to me. Well, number one, I would not show up on God's blameless list where he would be like, yeah, she's gonna be the one that doesn't doubt me. Now, maybe by the end of this whole adventure, as my faith grows, maybe I'll get there, but certainly not there now. Yeah, I'm still trying to make sense of everything. Even when things don't make sense. And man, at the time of this recording, we're just coming out of a 2-year pandemic. We've had riots and wars. There's war happening now, all around the globe. Things are not making sense, but yet we humans, we don't give up. We'll die on that sword trying to make things make sense. And then also trying to find our role in it, how we can do better or get it right. Anyway, they sit in silence with Job for 7 days. That's pretty cool. Like, they're there with him suffering. They just, they recognize it. They give space for it. They just sit there with him. But then finally, they've had enough. They're like, okay, it's time to get over this dude and get back to life. And then the conversation starts. And I'm only maybe about halfway through it. But it's this back and forth between Job, and then his friends will take turns speaking. And they're just trying to make sense of it. They're trying to, give explanations, find reasons. Well, surely you're not as blameless as you think you are, Job, because clearly you have been smited. All this has happened to you. Surely you're blameless. And now it's just time to admit it, accept it, and move on with life. And they're just, they reach the end of their rope with their empathy. They seem to do a good job, but they're just not, they're not letting him just rant and rave and complain. They want to fix it. They want to jump in, explain it, fix it, understand it, try to make sense of it all. And Job's like, I'm telling you, this makes no sense. and I'm mad, I'm hurt, I'm suffering, I'm like down and out here. I just need you to listen. But they don't listen. They just keep on explaining and keep on trying to come up with answers and reasons. And I'm one of those friends. Like, I'm a recovering fixer. That has been I do not tolerate other people's suffering very well or complaining, or it's like I'm a problem solver. It's like, hey, all right, you get your 2 minutes of whatever whining. I do it to myself. I even get mad at myself when I'm in the dumps. I don't give myself permission to be in the dumps. But as we learned, even back in Nehemiah, when you don't acknowledge all parts of yourself and give space for all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the painful, and go through the proper motions of grief and feeling all the feelings, it will come out. It will come out. It will, if you don't deal with it, it will deal with you. And we could even apply that same concept of the multiple selves, the psychology of selves that we talked about back in Nehemiah, to even Job. Like, this could be an internal head conversation. Haven't you had conversations like this with yourself? Like, oh, this just sucks. And the other part of you going, oh, you shouldn't say that. There must have been something you did to deserve this. You're wrong. Now you're even more wrong for complaining. Like, aren't we that hard on ourselves? Couldn't this be an internal conversation? So sometimes there is no good explanation for things that are happening in our lives. Sometimes things just happen. And it's in the suffering, and even just coming alongside other people when they're suffering and resisting the urge to fix is the work that we've got to do. And just being, because you don't know anything going on in their life, what's really going on in the bigger picture of things, sometimes things happen and we don't deserve them. There's no deserving. That's just our human brain, again, trying to make sense of something so that it knows where to file it and how to organize the mind and make meaning of it. We don't do well with unknowns or just letting go without first at least making a meaning of it. Like, even that in and of itself is attaching some sort of meaning or explanation to it. Our brains got to know what to do with things. And these friends, I think the suffering was just too much for them. And they were too uncomfortable. And they wanted their friend back. They wanted to fix him. They wanted things to be, for their own sake. When you're a fixer, you got to check your own motives. Like, are you really doing this to help them? Or are you really doing it for yourself? And that's not easy for me to admit. But it's true. Like, it's true. There's a lot of times when I'm just like, okay, I've had enough of this. This is uncomfortable. I don't like this anymore. And rather than even maybe removing myself or just shutting my mouth, I jump in there and try to fix, explain, make it better, whatever. Like, let's move on. So that was part of the lesson that I took away is, sometimes you just need to be and not seek understanding or explanation or making something mean something. Sometimes things just don't make sense, and we've got to, that's why, having God up there, like, that's why he's God. Do you really want a God you can fully understand the whole picture? Like, do you want that responsibility on your shoulders? Just letting God be God and let people be people and letting them have their own relationship and consequences with God. And you do the right thing by you and God. Anyway, Deep Thoughts by Felicia. Rise and shine. It's not very shiny. It's very cloudy. Probably going to have a lot more rain. But, we're heading into that time of year where the spring rains bring the summer, late spring and summer greenery and flowers. Hey, good morning. on the West Coast, really rising and shining. I'd love to see some West Coast pictures today. We've got tornadoes and gloom that we survived last night, and I'm grateful. All right, bye. Have a great Saturday.